Hello, my name is Christina. For everyone who is new, welcome back, everyone who has been here before. This is going to be pre recorded because, well, I'm having technical difficulties with my camera all of a sudden, which is and isn't strange considering everything that's been going on lately. I mean, just in my area, one of the reasons I haven't been on here lately is because we have had constant inundations of issues from one direction or another. I mean, we had the river flooding, dams being released, we had a barge today, we've had internet issues, storms coming through producing large hail, and recently, auroras that could be seen in Houston. Now, I didn't see them because there was way too much cloud cover, but that's okay. Because in order to see those auroras this far south, that lets you know that our magnetic shields, our earth shields, are weak at that moment. A lot of radiation can get through. And now, what that would do is it would first start causing issues with the magma that runs naturally in our earth, sort of like veins, okay? Carrying blood. Or a car engine, okay? You got to have that fire, you got to have the radiator to help keep it cool. You've got the oil, everything is in there, it's moving around. But when you get things heating up, and that's in any scientific realm, you heat something up, the particles are going to start moving faster. That is for water, and even when it comes to lava, it starts melting rock. It becomes molten lava. Okay? Now, so we would be looking at issues with not just earthquakes or like satellite issues, the internet issues. We had like the bank's website go down, a couple of different banks a few days ago. And, nowadays it's hard to tell. Is it hacking, or is it the magnetic issues being covered up as hacking, or is it both? I would suspect it's both. But this is just what we're going through in my area. All right. And it's really important. The title of this video is about a theory that is proving right now. It was about 14 years ago. It came out in 2011, but the theory had already been worked on before that. So I went ahead and did a 14-year span for this theory. Now, I've called it the Great Earth Expansion Theory, but the full title was the Great Earth Expansion Theory in the Gulf of Mexico. That was the full title. But it didn't just deal with the Gulf of Mexico. It dealt with what's going on, or what they were expecting to see going on with our planet in accordance to what's going on in the rest of the universe, like the exchange that's happening with our solar system in respect to everything else that's flowing in the universe at the same time, right? But they had made lots of predictions. Now, one of the things that I had mentioned many, many times over time on this channel is to watch for the day that you start seeing auroras popping up as far south as Florida. And they were recently in Florida, Alabama, Texas. Beautiful pictures. One of which I used the Houston NASA one for the picture for this video. So we're going to talk about that, okay? Because a theory is only a theory until it's really proven correct. And the mechanics, the math, the science was all right from the beginning, and I knew that. I knew that because I'm actually half intelligent, okay? I actually have the ability to solve puzzles and understand engineering and mechanics, and I'll be honest, that has a lot to do with growing up around the people that I have, because they're all very intelligent. They're all like these engineer, rig workers, everybody. I mean, really smart, Halliburton engineer type people that it's just common for these people to be around. So I have a natural ability, something that's been taught to me and made for me to understand. Anyway, I don't want to keep getting into that, but let's just go on, okay? So one of the things that I had warned about was in fact those auroras heading the south, this far south. That is finally happening, but it's not a good sign. No, no, no. It means that things are about to speed up. And when you think about the magnetic pole reversal issues that the Earth is having, eventually the water inundations begin. All right. It starts with, things like permafrost melting, all this evaporating into the air. It would cause a lot of water to accumulate in the clouds, the storms to get worse. It would cause magnetic pole reversal would cause, luscious areas to become droughts, desert areas to become lush, strange weather, strange things, even strange earthquakes in strange places that you don't normally see them. And when it comes to the water, I mean, when you talk about birth pangs, one of the things before delivery is your water breaks. Okay. So it's just, I find that interesting, you know. They say that the equator used to be, I think they were saying the North Pole, that we've had like 5 different pole shifts on Earth before. So it is not just a theory per se. It's happened and it can happen again, and there are signs that preclude such an event. And we have been seeing these signs such as these auroras. That was a lot more serious than you thought. It was safer to look at the moon getting, eclipsing the sun more than it was. But you think about this scientifically and biblically, it's like, wow, it's these scientific things are hitting prophetically too. Okay, because what does it do? It causes famine, crazy storms, volcanoes that you thought were extinct to wake up. Now, let's take a look super duper fast at we've got mosquitoes coming out now from all this rain. We've got one more storm tomorrow, and then I can actually put up the new canopy we got. Thank you guys so much for that. For your generosity. Thank you. Oh, also please subscribe if you haven't. Hit that like, share, comment. You know what I mean? That's a great way to support this channel, because it's important for people to understand what's actually happening. Now, we're gonna go. All right, so we talked about the auroras. Now, the Earth expansion theory in the Gulf of Mexico, there's a Vimeo video that was done in 2011. I've left the link for that in the description box. But you really want to hear the whole thing. You really, really do. There was a woman named, her last name is Hull, and another woman, her last name is Whitaker. Whitaker helped Hull, both ladies. And Hull is from Texas. Now, the first thing that they started talking about was, one of the first things anyway, was a major fault line from Florida that goes into Texas, down to South America, into the Caribbean, and back into Florida. And that this fault line had something to do with land separation with Africa, or from Africa, because the Yucatan Peninsula off the coast of, I guess it's Central America, that was what they're saying was once connected to Africa. And that it's the Gulf of Mexico actually used to be smaller, more like a lake at one time. At another time, the Gulf of Mexico went all the way up to like around Dallas, is what they're saying, in Austin. Okay. It's changed at times. Even where I'm sitting, about 90 miles inland, it also used to be Gulf seafloor. There's a lot of red sand around here. Anyway, but it also used to be connected to Africa. The Gulf of Mexico conveyor belt and magma uplift of the seafloor. They talked about that there is a magma conveyor belt under the Gulf of Mexico. And because it's heating up because of weak magnetic shields, it's causing the uplift of the Gulf of Mexico seafloor. And of course, it always had heat going through it because, well, there was the heating of the Gulf Stream going on too. But if the heat is too high, it can cause so many problems. And we've been seeing them in the news for years, but now it's getting really bad. Okay, they talked about how extinct volcanoes, often on shore, that are ancient, and people assumed they were inactive and no longer a threat. And I remember seeing that in science books in school. And they say there's no such thing as an extinct volcano or fault zone. Polar and geographic shifts. Lots of areas in the Gulf of Mexico thought to be inactive have woken up. Extremely ancient areas, fault lines, and volcanoes. Those are the ones waking up. Extremely ancient. Gulf of Mexico is heating, expanding, and lifting with an underflow channel of molten rock and heat. It will start using the oil well openings as vent holes. Watch for exploding wells and cracking pipelines. Now, there's something I was going to say about that. Well, we'll just keep going. Uplift on the west side of the Gulf around Texas. They were talking about how fish kills from outgassing is probably a culprit, meaning that outgassing of methane and chlorine, like from the salt domes under the seafloor, will cause gassing that could cause fish kills. And they say it's happening on the Pacific coast as well. Heating of the salt domes. You notice we had clear blue water in Galveston a few years back, a couple years in a row. When we had that heat anomaly in the Gulf of Mexico, it was probably a tar asphalt volcano type thing, because it causes the oil to boil when the magma heats up underneath the oil. It causes it to boil, which turns it into asphalt. But along with that asphalt comes the methane and the chlorine. A toxic environment for the water first. But then you see sea creature mutations, stillborn dolphins, things like that, as well as beached whales because their radar is confused with the the magnetic issues. There's a huge river of magma coming from the Caribbean to Florida and on into Texas and flows into Nebraska and onto the Rockies and Yellowstone. So this is a different thing than the fault line we were talking about. This is a huge river of magma. She says they say changes in the coastlines to come. They mentioned Dallas and Fort Worth heating up. And again, this was made in 2011. We just had a couple of really bad earthquakes in Dallas. Well, I mean, considering they don't normally get them. Heating of the ground, earth would melt the permafrost, which it has. And where there is severe drought, it is because of severe heat from underground. It takes huge amounts of energy to raise a water temperature. And this would also be why why and where you would see lots of wildfires. And like in West Texas, we've got oil and magma rivers out in that volcanic region in West Texas, and we're seeing wildfires. Okay, that's just an example. But to let you know, anybody who's moving to Texas, it's probably not the best idea. It's just not. Okay, this whole state seems to be experiencing a lot of issues, and we do have what they call a Houston magnetic anomaly. All right, then there's the South Atlantic anomaly, there's the Bermuda Triangle, right? And then there's what's going on in the Madrid and the Pacific coast. All right. So in order for that anomaly, when we saw that 150-degree temperature all those years ago and we mentioned it, that took an unbelievable amount of energy to do that, and can probably happen again, especially as things begin to progress even more. And especially, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more of that because of the presence of the auroras this far south. It would show that it's just the kind of thing that causes magma to heat up. And where there's heating magma, there's uplift and, you know, volcanoes popping. Now, they're saying, they were saying back then that the Gulf Stream flow had been changing. Since then, we've seen it stop. We've got dead zones, and still the magnetic fields are low and weak. It will cause more heat underneath our feet, massive changes. East Texas to the Mississippi River is really the old Gulf floor, is what they say. North continent uplift tilting will occur around Florida. And so, what's going on the east side of America, there will be something going on the west side as well. And this is where I was remembering that California is supposed to break off into the sea. And I wonder if that's just a gradual thing with the coast, constantly chipping away. Or is it just going to happen eventually, one big piece? But they also said the part of the Caribbean plate is a subduction zone. And then they even mentioned the earth wobble that we've been in, right? And I think we've gone into a double wobble since then. Now, you think about all these things they were saying was going to happen. We also had baseball size hail in Texas just like, what, a week ago? Or less than a week ago. We had it twice in a week in Texas. Now, here are some articles real quick, just as an example to show you this is really, we're getting to that point. I mean, everything, if you notice, like, it's going faster. And it's like now all these things are right on top of each other, like the last bit of labor. But check out these articles. One says at least 19 dead after huge section of highway collapses. This was southern China. Um, and when you have earth changes, it will affect your infrastructure, like your highways, and it could cause landslides because the earth is moving where these beams and everything was planted into. And if there are any water pipelines around these areas, then it will cause erosion over that. Here's another example: a mass fish die-off in Vietnam as heat wave roasts South Asia. Hundreds of thousands of fish have died in a reservoir in southern Vietnam's Dong Nai province, with locals and media reports suggesting a brutal heat wave and the lake's management are to blame. All right, there's more to that article. You can read it if you want. Here's one about the recent storms we had a couple of weeks ago. Meteorologists awed by extremely rare type of tornado and weird radar lights. Powerful storms roared across parts of southern Oklahoma Tuesday night, and that was a couple weeks ago, and produced dangerous and unusual tornadoes, including one incredibly rare type. Multiple tornadoes were ongoing simultaneously in Tillman County, Oklahoma, when the weather got weird. At least two of the tornadoes exhibited very odd behavior. One powerful tornado looped backward and recrossed its previous path, and another significant tornado spun in the wrong direction. You certainly don't see this every day. Even stranger, the tornadoes appear to have emerged from the same powerful thunderstorm. It goes on. You can see how it played out if you want to, but the next article, it says NOAA update, NOAA update. Solar storm warning impacts on power, satellites, and aurora. This was from May 2nd. There was even somebody who was like, so what if the auroras happen? I'm like, I had to pipe up and say, you don't realize how much can go wrong. And if we continue to see these auroras, and we should, I'm betting we will continue to see them this far south. It's just going to make everything worse. All right, here's another one. These aren't just everyday articles. These are extreme, and there's a lot of them. Well, I don't have like 20 of them here. I could have, but, just want you to get the idea. This one's titled Lake Tsunamis Are an Emerging Climate-Linked Hazard. You heard that. Lake tsunamis are an emerging climate-linked hazard. So, one minute you can be sitting on shore, picnicking, with the woman of your dreams, about to ask her to marry you. It's a beautiful day, the birds are there. Suddenly, there's a lake tsunami heading right for you. That's what I get out of it. An emerging feature here. The relatively obscure locations of Cowie Creek, Brabazon Range, and Upper Peterson Lagoon have recently become significant for their experience with lake tsunamis. A growing phenomenon primarily noted in Alaska and British Columbia, driven by the effects of climate change on mountain glaciers. Lake tsunamis are typically triggered by landslides that plunge into small, often remote bodies of water. Okay. So this isn't going to be just any lake. Okay, right now they're saying if you have a landslide. For my area, we can have water just come up for 9 different kinds of reasons, but it won't be because of a landslide. Not here. No. It's too flat. All right. Next article. 150,000 people were displaced due to flooding in Vietnam. Next article. Why fish in Florida are spinning to death and washing up on beaches. Now, again, we're talking about the heating up, the gassing of the oceans, the pollution in the oceans, and then the magnetic problems that would confuse things like pigeons and whales, dolphins. So any of those things or a combination of those things would cause the exact issues you're seeing, but it's exactly what we're talking about. It's not just a science thing. It's not just a theory. It is an actual thing that is happening, and it's playing out right before our eyes. Our planet is going to go through some massive changes. Okay, we're talking like new land formed. There was also a video that I had made a few years back that when this video ends, the thing should come up where you can click on it, and there's even more information. And don't forget the link to the expansion theory conversation, because it will probably help you understand more than what I could even say, because I just pulled some of the things out. But we're heading for something completely unseen in, gosh, probably millennia. It's the end of an age, not just like a social or a person age. It's the end of certain cycles in the universe and the beginning of another. And it's coincides so perfectly, doesn't it? I've been wanting to do a live or a video, whichever one I can get going here, about the 144,000. There's just so much to unpack there, and I can see why it has been so hard for everybody to understand what that part of the Sixth Seal is actually talking about. I want to get into that pretty soon. So I will be talking to you soon, and I wish all of you a wonderful night, day, evening, weekend, whatever's going on in your life. God bless you. Bye.